attending today. I hope you find the information useful. We wanted to do this one because, just to give a little background, we've talked about, work from home and technology in the home before, securing things at home, and we'll talk about that stuff again today. But, the real idea here is that I feel like the borders for technology, whether it's work, play, productivity, whatever, has kind of blurred, and we're sort of expected to be able to engage with technology no matter where we are, whether it's the office or our home. So that's sort of what this is about, and I hope the information is useful and helps you make better decisions for your home. So let's look at how technology has been integral for our life, and I think it's kind of always a good idea to sort of recap where we're at in this process. So obviously at this point, we're in, I guess it's May 2022. Work from home or hybrid work from home, whatever you want to call it, has been normalized for tons of workers. Speaking for myself, I'm in the office about half the time, and the other half of the time I'm usually at my home or maybe with a client or something like that. There are organizations out there where everybody is completely remote, and that's not changing ever. Or organizations where maybe they're mostly back in the office, but even still, I think you're going to be hard pressed in many professional services organizations to see an organization where nobody has any kind of remote work. It's just sort of where things are at right now. More consumer products are sort of evolving into what I would call consumer technology products. So if you go to, I was at Costco last week and I was shopping, and the refrigerator has internet connections that talk to the web, and you've got products like doorbells that now have cameras in it that you can then see who's at the door. Or you have the baby monitor, which talks to your Nest camera or something like that. These things are all integrated. And in the past, when we would go and buy these products, we didn't think about technology with them. But now technology is basically built into them, and they're networking with everything else. Keep in mind, too, that all of this stuff is networking while we're doing the work from home stuff. Too. So home entertainment is often tied to downloading and streaming. So TV, movies, video games, etc. Just last night, I was done with my work day. I was watching Better Call Saul on Netflix while my girlfriend was downloading a PC game on Steam. Later that night, I was online with some people watching videos. Basically all the time, basically almost everything I was doing that night was dependent on the internet. In fact, the food I was cooking was using temperature thermometers that I can monitor on an iPad, which also use my home network. So really almost everything is tied into the tech. Most people are using more than one computing device these days too. So I remember, when I was in college in the early 2000s, way back when, I had a desktop and laptop PC, and that was sort of exotic. Most people had either their desktop or their laptop. A lot of college students just had a laptop. And now, if you think about the average person, they probably have a laptop, maybe, and a desktop. They probably have a smartphone, a tablet. They maybe have some video game consoles, IoT type devices, so on and so forth. And really, when we're walking into our home, there's any number of devices that talk on the web, and everything is sort of competing for internet connectivity, local network connectivity, things like that. And as consumers, individuals, workers, etc., it's really going to be on us to build homes that can support all this stuff. There's not, in our office, we usually get the IT guy to help us build this stuff out. But in our homes, it's kind of put on us. So hopefully this webinar today is going to give you a little bit of clarity when you have to make these decisions. So a few challenges as we allow technology to permeate our homes. So the first is access. A lot of people don't live in major metropolitan areas where they may have a choice, a Verizon or a Comcast or any number of ISPs that can provide, blazing fast internet connections, competition, so on and so forth. I remember early on in my career, I know I keep giving my memories, but sort of how I contextualize everything. I remember doing some work for a client, and they lived way out in the country, and we literally had to get a T1 line drawn to their house. That was the only thing we could get, which was extremely expensive and slow. These sort of things still exist for some people. There still are areas, especially as the further rural you get, where internet connections are quite limited, which means as we integrate technology into our home, it's going to have consequences on what we can actually do. the actual speed of these connections can be quite inconsistent or poor quality. Probably somebody on this call today may have an internet connection where they say, once a week it goes down, or sometimes it's fast and other times it's slow, and I don't know why. Maybe you are, again, getting back to the sort of rural area thing, you might be using maybe a cell phone based connection, which doesn't always get the best signal, or a satellite connection, which could be obstructed by physical things. Those can be real challenges. A big one here is I would call weak home network design. So you'll talk, it's things like buildings not suited for a network, inconvenient setups, inadequate equipment, etc. A lot of people have been using the same wireless equipment and Wi-Fi routers, etc., that they've been using since they first started using wireless stuff. They've been using cables in the walls that have been there for 20 years sometimes, even Ethernet connections, which seemed fine for 10, 15 years are now sort of no longer up to snuff. You have situations where you may have a building where maybe you have thick brick walls or certain kinds of metal pipes and stuff that interfere with wireless connections. There's all sorts of weird things that contribute to technology failures in the home. And then, of course, security. So it's really an afterthought for many home people. There's certainly bad, poorly configured Wi-Fi networks where things are wide open, or you don't have separated traffic for guests. Bad administrative management where people don't change the vendor defaults. Devices that never get updated. So you install your new Wi-Fi router and then you let it sit for years, and they discover that there was a known vulnerability that could have been patched up, but nobody did anything. And of course, maybe the most relevant thing is just the vulnerable people. When you're in your home and you get that phishing email that asks you to click on something that you shouldn't, or someone asks you to share data from the office and it's actually not someone from the office, it's some scammer. The people are extremely vulnerable when they're working remotely because they don't have that security culture around them. So these are huge challenges when working from home or really doing anything from home. And we have to keep this in mind as we move forward. So today for our agenda, sort of get into what we're going to talk about. Let's take an inventory of your home and your needs. So before we're able to make any decisions with this stuff, we really need to understand what we're working with. There's going to be limitations for most people when it comes for home networks. I think we should be building security into every decision we make. So I'm going to talk about basic security practices to create a safe environment to engage with. We're also going to talk about what kind of traffic you need to plan for. So just like the highway, just like 695 or 95 or 495, depending on where you are, I'm here in Maryland. Traffic in your home is just like that. We need to build a highway and have speed limits that are suitable for the type of traffic we expect on our network. I want to demystify internet bandwidth numbers so you sort of know what you're getting. The thing that inspired this is my dad was reaching out to me. He lives in the country and he gets advertised satellite internet a lot, and they say get rid of your Comcast connection and go with satellite. It's so much better and things. And it's kind of unfortunate because this kind of marketing is, I don't want to call it predatory necessarily, but it definitely puts people in positions where the advertising is not really reflecting the actual needs of the consumer. And a lot of times when people are buying connections, they don't really know what is enough or what kind of thing they need or what to look out for. So they make a good decision and then they're stuck with something often for 1 or 2 years on a contract. So I really wanted to talk about that today. General tips on decision making and Q&A. First, let's just take inventory of your home. When I say take inventory of your home, I might be getting into a few things that you didn't think of. So one is the actual physical construction of the home itself. What's your house like? I live, to give you a little transparency, I live in a brick town house that's not super big, a 3-bedroom home, normally, 2 floors and a basement. And so there are some considerations to be made for building things out of my home. Wiring my entire home for Ethernet might be a little challenging to run cables through the walls where everything's kind of vertical. It is an older construction, so there's probably limits on the amount of power I can build in and things like that. I have to be mindful of the fact that since it's a townhouse, if I broadcast a wireless signal for Wi-Fi, That can be seen by people walking right past my home, by my neighbors' guests, anybody. I need to take inventory of maybe other things like, do I have particularly thick walls or something like that, where if I set up a wireless network that runs out of my basement or the top floor, will that even reach all the areas of the house, and what kind of signal will I get? Stuff like that. It's easy to overlook these things. I remember in the first time I built a network in a home was about 20 years ago. I was in high school, and I remember I had to run wires. I ran them through windows that I poked holes into, and through window-based AC units, just to make sure all the computers were wired. And that was what we could do at the time. But I had to sort of take inventory of where things were physically sitting at. How crowded is your neighborhood? So this matters for a couple reasons. One was the thing I mentioned before, which was like Wi-Fi. How many people are going to run into our Wi-Fi signal, try to connect to it, whatever. Obviously, we don't want people who are not who are not authorized to get on the same network where we do our sensitive work or just our regular work. You know, people aren't entitled to our internet bandwidth. We want to have a good performance. We don't want to have people, you know, sucking our bandwidth dry. But the other piece of it is when you buy an internet connection from a carrier, a common carrier like a Verizon or a Comcast, if you have a really crowded neighborhood, that might impact your internet speed and connectivity at any given time. You know, at 8 o'clock at night, prime time, when everybody's probably wanting to download their game or stream their video or whatever, certain kinds of internet connections in certain areas may not perform as fast as advertised. The ISPs, it may not surprise you, don't often build out the infrastructure that supports the amount of people and traffic in a given area. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you're in a particularly dense area, if the internet connections are a little sketchy, it may limit you. How far does the Wi-Fi have to travel? I have some friends who live in Baltimore City who have some townhouses that are pretty tall. And so they actually have to use things like Wi-Fi extenders if they're using wireless, where if the Wi-Fi sort of starts in their basement, they may need to put like a little box 2 floors up so that the people on the top floors can actually get internet, period. I think that's kind of important. There's something I call electronic geography. So without getting too much into the details, the ISPs are essentially have maps of coverage, just like cell phones, where the further you are from what Verizon would call them central offices, the less options you're going to have for high-speed internet. Not everyone can get Verizon Fios based on where they're at geographically. There was a time even I remember in Baltimore City where areas that you would think should have ideal areas for internet connections were a little slow. They just didn't build them out. You're not really going to know this stuff until you start investigating it. In fact, if you're thinking about moving sometime soon, you know, you want to get a new house, you're going to a different apartment or something like that, and you were going to be working from home or doing significant amount of technology and networking from home, you might want to ask your landlord or your real estate agent or whoever to look into what are the internet connections around here. You don't want to be moving in and find out that all of a sudden you can only get 10 megabits per second. That may have a real impact on your life. What does everybody want to do with their technology? So, and when I say everyone, I mean everyone in the home. These things no longer exist in a vacuum. You might be using your internet connection to do emails, work from home, watch Netflix, etc. But your kids probably want to play games or something like that. Maybe you have somebody in your home who wants to share videos. You know, they run a Plex server or something like that. Really, you should be figuring out what am I actually planning around? What do people want to do with their technology? And sort of keep that in mind as we make decisions. If you don't sort of outline that first, you're sort of setting yourself up for failure. And then, of course, just the idea of change. So what's going to change for you in the future? Are you going to expand your home? Are you going to have more people move in? Are you going to get a new job sometime soon? Whatever, you know, just anything that could be changing in the near future. Once you sort of identify that, there's sort of some basic home security practices that everybody should be doing. It doesn't need to be complicated, assuming you want to have a quote home experience. And when I say home experience, I mean what an average person is doing. Some people don't have the average home experience. I would say, whoops, I don't know why that happened. Sometimes with GoToMeeting, it likes to minimize my deck for whatever reason. Anyway, when I say home users, I mean people who aren't trying to run server farms out of their homes. You know, we used to have LAN parties in college where we would get 40 people's PCs together. We would all connect to the internet at once and play video games together. That's not an average experience. But these are some of the practices I would say are good for the average person. So first of all, we need to make sure that all of our devices in our homes, including Wi-Fi routers and anything that talks on the internet, is quote unquote supportable. What do I mean by supportable? It gets updates from the manufacturer. It is something that is relatively recent. It's something that is considered to be secure in a general sense. You know, there are products, bootleg products in particular, that are maybe less secure and less supportable than a well-known brand name, stuff like that. This is surprisingly kind of an issue for a lot of people. You know, again, getting back to one of the things I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are using the same Wi-Fi routers that they purchased when they first got their internet connection, when they first started to go wireless. And the truth is, those devices are probably insecure now. They're probably not well maintained, and they probably have a known vulnerability on them. Strong password management, especially for device management, multi-factor authentication for particularly sensitive accounts. So any kind of device that has something sensitive behind it, you know, the way I would look at it is every time we're logging into something, there is some kind of asset behind it. We need to determine the value of that asset. Is that asset just our home, our family photos, some computer games, whatever? Obviously, the risk with something like that is a little bit lower than when the asset behind the login is something like your tax returns or your investment accounts or your personal health information or your company's information, stuff like that. Really, for any account that you're trying to log into or any device that you're trying to log into, that once you make that login, now someone has access to something that is of sensitive nature to you, we should be putting multi-factor authentication at that portal. Someone was asking me the other day, as it relates to CMMC, where exactly they need to implement multi-factor authentication, and I say that we need to be very broad, and multi-factor authentication should really be in front of wherever the sensitive asset is. That the step to get to the sensitive asset is a multi-factor authentication step. If you have questions about this, this is the type of thing where it is best to discuss with a professional and expert, someone who could really help you identify where those areas are. There should be timeouts and forced lockouts. So if someone's logging into your machine or your account 10 times and they fail, that account should get locked until an admin can unlock it. We don't want people to have a million cracks at a device and try and break into it before it says, no one's going to get into this account. No sensitive device should be able to be left on and idle and just walked up to for an infinite amount of time. People step away from their desks. Sometimes they have to use the bathroom or they just forget to log out or something like that. At some point, things should time out and it should require a new login. Endpoint malware protection. This is probably not a big surprise to you. You know, commercial antivirus, anti-malware products are really good. We deploy for our clients Sentinel-1 on our managed services clients. Basically, you need something that if a patch fails or a vulnerability isn't dealt with yet, that there's something to fight back against malware and viruses. You don't need to break the bank on this. You don't need to look for the most sophisticated solution in the world. You just need something that is solid, that does a good job, that supports your other security. And also awareness. You know, I keep getting into it, which is that, you know, there's a lot of security products that we could buy, and there's a number of things that are not on this slide that could be done to improve your security, whether you're at home or in the office. But there's nothing that's really going to provide more of a return of investment than having an aware, engaged individual who cares about what they do and is mindful of where they click. There's great monitoring solutions that can identify the early phases of ransomware, but these solutions can be very, very expensive. They're not going to be something that everybody can implement. But what people can implement is telling everyone what ransomware is, telling people what to look out for in a phishing email, knowing who to share their information with and who not to share their information with. These things don't really cost much, if anything. And so I think everybody needs to make some kind of investment, at least in effort, in security awareness. Let's pivot a bit to talk about traffic. So traffic on your home network is like car traffic in a neighborhood. And you want to plan to have the lanes and speed limit to support the traffic you need and not cause jams. So if you're driving around a neighborhood and all this, let's say, just think of an average neighborhood, maybe a suburban neighborhood. Imagine if you had bumper to bumper traffic just going to the grocery store. That would be problematic because the grocery store is something we need to be able to go to all the time. And we don't want to have to spend an hour and a half getting to the grocery store because there's too much traffic. Well, the stuff we do in our homes with technology is also important. We can't have our work be slow because the internet is slow because there's too much traffic on our network. We have to build our traffic out much like a city builds out their highways. So every device will require more or less from your router. So some routers are suited for multiple devices. And the analogy I use is you need a bus to bring all the kids to school. You don't want the bus to be like a clown car where you have to stuff the 50 clowns in the tiny car. Routers basically are traffic cops, and they're determining where different pieces of traffic go on a network, what devices get traffic, when and how, and all that stuff. It might not surprise you that there's only so much traffic that the traffic cop can govern at any given time. And as you add more devices to your network, more IoT devices, sort of those home consumer technology things that now have internet connections, TVs, video game systems, computers, whatever, you may need a router, especially a wireless router, that is a little bit more sophisticated to suit all that traffic. If you've got a kid who is into gaming online, you might need a Wi-Fi router that has low latency, other things like that. Not all routers are created equal. There's a reason when you go into a Best Buy or a Walmart or something, there are routers that are extremely cheap, and then there are routers that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Streaming and other always in use purposes will take bandwidth off the top. So let's say for the sake of argument, you have a 100 megabit internet connection out of your home. That seems pretty common. That's not totally out there. And then let's imagine that you want to stream some 4K video. You want to watch Netflix and you have some 4K stuff. They say that 4K streaming on Netflix takes about 25 megabits per second to do that. So you can take your 100 megabit connection and then cut off 25 megabits just off the top. It's going to remove that bandwidth off of your network. And now all of a sudden you're left with 75 megabits. Well, then let's say while that's happening, somebody wants to download a 50 gigabyte file. Maybe it's a game they're installing or a video they're downloading or something like that. Well, now more traffic is being pulled from it. And eventually there's not going to be enough traffic to go around. There are concepts that we could talk about like throttling, where we only allow someone to take so much bandwidth. So just keep in mind that the more things you do that always are consuming traffic, the more your internet connection is going to be taxed. Downloading games or other large files, I just mentioned this, where you pull all the data at once could consume all of your bandwidth. So getting back to like Steam or PlayStation Network or something like that, a lot of games are pretty big. I want to say the latest Call of Duty games are something like 100 gigabytes. These are extremely large files. And if you don't really govern it on your network and you don't say, we're not going to allow you to use all of our network connections, a lot of times these applications to download the files will take every bit of bandwidth that they can find. And so someone will be watching YouTube or something, and all of a sudden when another person wants to download the file, the YouTube video becomes all grainy or slow, or it pauses or stuff like that. And you go, what the heck? What was going on? I was doing everything was working. And the reason is that somebody came in and sucked up all the bandwidth. So just keep that in mind. You also want to keep in mind latency. So latency is different from bandwidth. So think about it from like a car or a speed limit perspective. Let's say a car can drive 100 miles per hour, right? And once you hit the pedal, the car goes 100 miles, speeds up and eventually goes 100 miles per hour. Well, the latency, if you want to make an analogy with this, is sort of the time between when you put your foot on the pedal and the car starts moving forward. If you're playing a game, for example, you need that latency to be very, very small. If you are telling your character to jump in a game, you can't have that request take a long time to be recognized on the other end. Similarly, if you're doing like a screen sharing thing, so let's say for the sake of argument, you are remotely connecting to a PC in your office, and you're trying to move your mouse pointer on that remote PC, like a go to my PC sort of thing. If you have a high latency, you might notice that the mouse pointer is a little delayed. You click on something and then the click doesn't go through right away. It takes a few seconds and then the click goes through. That is usually a function of network latency, not so much speed. I hope that makes sense. It's an important concept. Your location in your home may impact how fast your wireless connection is or other performance issues. So, and this isn't just wireless, it's also things like 5G for cell phone services. In my home, for example, I'm able to get good Wi-Fi coverage pretty much everywhere in the home. But if I go on my back deck, like let's say I'm working outside or doing yard work or something like that, oftentimes I find my wireless connection kind of flakes out. And so if I'm listening to a podcast on my phone or something, it might cut off. Just keep in mind that there's just going to be a limit to how far that goes. Here at DP Solutions, actually in our office, I do notice that there are certain areas where cell phone service is just not so good. I don't know if there's something in the wall or something like that. This is pretty common. There are just physical limitations to where wireless technology can reach. So just keep that in mind. Do you need to upload information? So this is sort of a different thing. You know, a lot of people think of internet connections and everything is just speed, but the reality is that when most people are working in their homes, they're consuming, they're downloading. When you're watching a video, you're downloading information. When you're installing a game, you're downloading that game. When you are accessing a file, you're downloading that file or that email. But not everything we do is downloading. Some things are uploaded. So let's say you were working, a good example would be someone who's working in artwork or video production or something like that, and you finish your video and now you're sending it to another site or YouTube or something like that. Now you're uploading data. Now you're sending data back up that pipe. It may not surprise you that Comcast, Verizon, other carriers for certain kinds of internet connections are slower to send information than it is to receive information, which kind of makes sense. Most people are pulling information down rather than sending it, so it makes sense to make that connection asynchronous. But keep in mind, if you're trying to check your online security cameras, doing video chats, doing other things where you're sending data back and forth as opposed to just pulling it down, you may need more speed on the upload side, and many internet connections aren't suitable for that. Satellite connections are particularly bad for that. Some cellular connections are pretty bad for that. Even some traditional cable connections, like with Xfinity, Comcast, can be rougher for that. So really important. And this gets into going back to one of my earlier points where it's really important to know what everyone wants to do on their network because it's going to inform some of our decisions. What are you actually buying with your internet connection? So ISPs love to advertise the best and fastest and most powerful connections, but you need to look past the marketing and understand how it applies to you. So megabits per second is where we start, but your connection may reach gigabit speed, which is 1,000 megabits. So in the past, we even had kilobits, but I'll stop right now and just say you don't want an internet connection that's measured in kilobits. That's too slow. Anyway, megabits per second is just a measure of speed. To give you a sense, in my house, I think I have 150 megabits per second right now. And honestly, I would want something a little bit more, but there's limitations to what I can get at the moment from my carrier, which is unfortunate. Some places you can get up to a gigabit, which is 1,000 megabits per second. Don't be confused. If you see a connection and it says 2 megabits per second, or gigabits per second. Some people falsely think, oh, 2, that seems slow. Well, really, it's 2,000, or more accurately, 2,056, I think, megabits per second. So just keep that in mind. Most people, and I think this is one of my later slides, do not need that kind of speed. But I'm not gonna lie. I mean, if you can get a really high-speed internet connection, it will make your life that much easier, as long as you can afford it too. Traditional connection generally performs better than cellular, satellite, or other atypical connections. So I say traditional. Usually, what I mean is wired from whatever the ISP's central office is to your home. There are offerings out there that are maybe point-to-point wireless, where there's like a station that points a dish to your house and gives you high speed, but usually there's limitations there. Satellite connections that obviously talk into the sky. I think even DirecTV offers stuff like this. I mean, to be honest, I don't use satellite. They can be fast, but in general, they're not as fast as a wired connection. I mean, I guess that's probably not too surprising. Even though 5G is really fast, I mean, the best 5G connections aren't going to beat a good fiber connection or something like that. I don't want to, I'm not trying to poo-poo these other connections. It's just one is going to be objectively faster than the other most of the time. So just keep that in mind. You may be buying an asymmetrical connection. Download is faster than upload, and most of the time this is appropriate. So not all the time, but a lot of the time you only need something that pulls down a lot of stuff. But if you're one of those special cases, maybe you're uploading video files a lot. Maybe you work in, I know a lot of graphic designers, architects, engineers, people who do CAD drawings. Oftentimes they work in files that are extremely large. You may need to have more speed on the upload than the average person. And just keep in mind too, that even if you have something that's extremely fast, if the file is sufficiently large, there's just no way to get it down immediately. If you say, I have this 4K video that's 2 hours long, it's a movie or something, and I want to download the whole thing right now, it's just going to take a while, even with the fastest connections. And it may take you 20 minutes, but you know, it's not going to be instantaneous. You can stream something practically instantaneously, but full download is a little bit more complicated. Your ISP may limit the amount you can download in any given month and charge you for overages. So something else to keep in mind, which is that this is sort of a growing trend. It's a little troubling to me, where they will say, you know, as a Comcast customer, you can download, you know, X number of gigabytes per month. And then afterwards, we're going to charge you a fee, or we're going to throttle your service or something like that. You know, my understanding is the ISPs are usually trying to target people who are real hogs for bandwidth. But you might be one of those people if you're working from home a lot, if you're downloading videos a lot, if you're downloading games a lot. You just need to be aware of what you have. Make sure you ask your rep. If you don't quite understand what your ISP's rep's saying, ask an expert. You can ask people like your people at DPS. We'll definitely try and help you out. For most people with modest needs, so I would say work from home, Netflix, average gaming, some smart devices, not excessive usage, I think 100 megabits per second should cover you as of this moment, May 2022. That could obviously change. That will change over time. Over time, I would expect your needs to grow. There's no putting the genie in the back in the bag. More people are going to have things like home security systems with streaming video. More people are going to have do video streaming to get their entertainment. More people are going to download games. More people are going to get more devices. That's just the way things are now. So expect to have to revisit your internet connection every few years. I found that when I started doing work from home during COVID, that the connection I had at the time was not enough, and I had to contact Verizon and make a change. That's not a bad thing. It's just the way of technology, which has changed. So anyway, making decisions for your home. You know, now that you have all this stuff, how do you make good decisions? First, identify your limitations. So your ISP availability, housing, etc. So you know what you can't change. There are certain things that we can't do anything about, right? I can't do anything about the fact, or at least practically do anything about the fact that I live in a townhouse, right? I mean, I can move, but that's not something I could do overnight. So I know that because of that, I'm going to have to be competing with my neighbors for internet speed. I'm going to have to really secure my wireless network. I know that wiring my house for Ethernet is going to be a little tricky. Stuff like that. I know that, as I mentioned earlier, that because I have this brick home, that maybe getting wireless connectivity out from my basement out until the backyard when I want to barbecue or something may be a little difficult. But at least I know those limitations so that I'm not going out there and making investments into things that are not practical. Think about your must-haves, the baseline for your purchase decisions in management. So you might be like, you may have limitations. You know, you can only get so fast of an internet connection. You can only have your wireless travel so far, et cetera. Well, then maybe you know that, hey, you know, I'm not going to be able to upload those video files that I'm working on from my home. I'm going to have to do that when I'm spending time in the office. Or I know that when I'm working from home, or I have to do, like right now, you know, I'm doing this webinar in my office, but in the past I would do the webinars from home. And I knew that when I was doing a webinar from my home, that I couldn't have a bunch of things downloading in the background. I couldn't have I had to tell my girlfriend, hey, maybe cool it on the video game playing or the streaming and stuff. I need to make sure my internet connection is perfect right now and nobody's getting in the way of it. Prioritization is really important. There's a good chance you can't just do everything. Sort of guesstimate what your average traffic is on your home network on any particular day. The more you have, the more you have to invest in internet connections and home networking equipment. So I brought it up earlier, know what is required, know what you're looking to do, and then think about what the average day is. You know, a 25 megabit internet connection is fine on a case-by-case basis, right? I can stream 4K video, I can download that file, I can run the webinar, I can do my work from home, I can do all that stuff, but I probably can't do all of those things at once. If I am doing all those things at once, I need to sort of write it all out on a piece of paper or something, and then sort of keep that in mind when I'm going to purchase my technology. This is more really about identifying what people are doing and what you have, as opposed to some kind of number. Shop smart for your ISP. Ask your neighbors about their experiences. Choices may be limited. So again, just because somebody leaves an advertisement at your house, tells you about this great internet connection they have, don't take their word for it. Ask them about their actual experiences. As you know, I'm not trying to throw Comcast or Verizon under the bus, but I think we've all been there where somebody has said, yeah, I've contacted so-and-so 4 times about fixing my internet connection, and this problem keeps happening. I'm sure you've heard about it before. It does happen. Keep that in mind, because if the neighborhood just has an unstable solution, you're not getting good support from your ISP, it's going to affect you in a tangible way. For diverse technology needs, you're going to want devices and configurations that can support traffic shaping and throttling. So this is where we get into, you might want to involve an expert kind of thing. But if you're really having a ton of traffic in your home, if you're really worried about doing complex stuff, there are tools, products, configurations where you can help manage these challenges better. What I do in my home, for example, is I set it up on all of my devices that when someone's trying to download a video game, that the game that download can only take so much of my bandwidth, that it will only take at maximum, I want to say, I think I set it to like 40 megabits per second. That means, of course, that the download won't go as fast as it could possibly go, but the positive side of this is that I never have to worry that something's just going to break because I decided to download a game. That's not, if I decide to download a game and my girlfriend's sitting on the couch and she's watching Netflix, it's not going to interrupt her show, that sort of thing. Finally, make sure that every device that you connect to your network is reasonably secure and the people in your home know the basics. So we shouldn't just be letting people connect to our networks. We shouldn't just be letting a PC work forever, a device work forever, just because it has been working. You know, just because something's worked in the past doesn't mean we should keep doing it. And of course, we need our people to be aware of what's going on, be aware of the environment. If a threat's coming up or something's out there, there has to be some sort of basic awareness. Unfortunately, we can't just expect all of the security technology to do the work for us. So that's it in terms of the planned content, the stuff I prepped here. There's a lot more that could be talked about when it comes to the home, which is why we always leave this Q&A time at the end. While you guys are submitting your questions, I'm going to talk real quick about the June webinar. You know, it is this I'm literally looking out the window of my office, and we're having a Memorial Day barbecue out in the back for lunch today. So it's sort of spring, summertime, and I know people are planning on travel, and we should make cybersecurity a part of the travel and vacation plan. So I know on the last trip I went to, I had to get my laptop, my cell phone together. I had to get all my chargers in line, but we should also be thinking about how can we operate in a secure way when we leave our house. What are the things we need to keep in mind? And it's not just going to be tech stuff, install this, deploy that. It's also going to be about stuff that we can do to make ourselves more secure, how we can handle our behaviors so that we're not a target and things like that. So make sure you join us on June 29th for that. You can register on the event's website. More information to come. With that said, Jill, what questions do we have?
Yep, thanks, Ben. Okay, our first question is there a way to know if someone is using your Wi-Fi without your permission?
Good question. Is there a way to know? To be honest, for the average person, probably not. And I mean, you could if you logged into the device and looked at concurrent connections and things like that. But you know, to be honest, I don't mean to be arrogant or patronizing to to the audience. But my guess is you probably don't have the wherewithal to do it. This is why the best solution to this problem is to have a wireless network where all of the vendor defaults are changed. That if you're broadcasting a wireless, you know, a Wi-Fi access point, that it requires a password to log in. That password is not password 123. It's something that's complicated, something that is not easily cracked. So on and so forth. You may want to change it every so often. You also want to do things, I didn't mention it before, reboot your wireless router every so often. First, just so it performs a little bit better, but also it'll clear any connections out of it that may be foreign, stuff like that. It's not an easy thing to know. So that's an excellent question. This kind of goes to show you know, sort of another thing about security, which is that oftentimes with security incidents, whether it's the home or the office or anything else, we aren't always going to know something is happening until it's too late. And I hate to be so negative about it, but we should be sort of operating on the assumption that we're always being attacked and should have skepticism over everything because there's not enough products and services in the world or resources in the world to protect us from every kind of threat. So I'll leave that one on a downer, but I think the important point is that we care about it so that we're mindful.
Yeah. Okay, the follow-up to that question, is it worth it to connect routers to boost the strength of your network?
Connect routers to boost the strength of your network. The answer is it depends. Most people don't need to do that. I mean, I gave my example. I have a townhouse. I want to say it's 1,300 square feet, 3 bedrooms, normal, pretty average home. And my Wi-Fi covers everything pretty good, and it's not an issue. But the bigger the geography, the more you may need other stuff. There are things like signal boosters or Wi-Fi extenders that can often work pretty well. They're like you can they just have little AC plugs. You plug them into the wall. You configure them. They talk. They connect to your Wi-Fi device, and then they spread your signal further. That might be an appropriate solution. I would say if you're an amateur, maybe you're not the strongest with technology, and you're having this problem, this is where getting an expert might be a good thing because you want to do it the right way, and it can be kind of confusing. And there's some troubleshooting stuff. I know in the past when I had to do something like this, the wireless stuff can be a little flaky. It sometimes doesn't want to work the first time. So I would get an expert involved.
Okay, great. All right. Is there anything I should do before allowing my employees to work from home so they can be secure?
Great question. So first, there has to be an acknowledgement of what is and is not allowed in terms of work from home. These are the things you're allowed to do. These are the things you're not allowed to do. This is who you're allowed to share data with. These are our security practices. This is, you know, again, getting back to security awareness in general, people need to be aware of the threats that are out there. We can't just allow someone to work from home and do all this stuff without having full acknowledgement and engagement about what's safe. They need to know how to report incidents, that if something weird happens or something bad happens, that they have a sort of an escape valve, somebody that they can talk to or ping so that they can get some progress and resolve the issue if there's an incident. Of course, we should be mindful and let them know about what we expect from them when they're working from home in terms of if they're using a personal device, what needs to be installed on the personal device to make it secure. Yeah, I would also discuss with your IT department what is necessary technology-wise to make that successful. So what, you know, and again, this is going to be a little personal, whether people are using home devices or company-issued devices, things like that. But there has to be a plan before you start letting people do the work.
Okay, awesome. We did have one more question come in. Do you think employees should be responsible for their own equipment when working from home?
Yes and no. So, you know, the company is probably not going to be the one that picks out the internet connection for their employee. They're probably not going to be the one that installs their Wi-Fi router. They're not going to be the one that wires the space or anything like that. However, I do think it is not a terrible idea if the company is going to spend a significant amount of time working from home to have a company-issued laptop. You know, to be honest, most people I think are using, especially in a work environment, a lot of them are using laptops instead of desktops anyway, making the mobility kind of moot. But I think when you use a company-issued device, one thing that is nice is that you can then put all the security controls and have all the rules on it and not have to worry about someone saying, but on my home PC, I want to have this and my games and my kids and all this other stuff. Well, if the devices are separate, it's a lot easier to govern that stuff. It's not to say that you couldn't use home devices to create a secure environment or make things safe and productive, but it's a lot easier with the company-issued stuff. Obviously, it's a gray area. Sometimes you may want to take a more active role. Maybe this employee is you really want them working out of their home, or maybe your office is completely decentralized now. You don't even have an office, and so you're going to make more of an investment into the employee's home environment because that's just the way you work. I mean, that's a very valid approach. But for the most part, the individual should be required to, you know, have the home network connection, the home network set up, the basics, and then maybe you issue them a device or two or provide them certain security tools. You know, we sometimes, for example, will deploy some of our security tools on home devices because it's not a big cost and it helps improve the security posture. It's a complicated answer. It's going to vary for everybody, but I don't think the employer should have to be responsible for every piece of technology at someone's home, if that makes sense.
Okay, follow up to that, what are your thoughts on using VPNs?
VPNs can be used from someone's home, but there's a problem with that. So my view is if you're going to establish a VPN, and I want to qualify this because this advice and this approach may not be suitable for every environment. But if you have a home user and they want a VPN to an office, that should occur from the device and not from the network. In other words, we don't want someone's home and all of the devices in their home on that network to have the same VPN access to that other site as the actual work. You know, if I create a point-to-point VPN from 10 employees' homes, that means it's not just the employee's work device that they're using from their home. It's all of the other devices in that network that could potentially have VPN access, unless you're setting up directly from the device. You may not require VPN to create a secure environment too. So depending on the environment you're working in, what you're trying to access remotely, VPN might not even be appropriate. It might be a bad solution. In fact, it could be less secure. So I don't want to be too prescriptive with this. The solution is very, very, very much going to vary by person. But in general, you don't want the VPN to happen from the employee's home. You don't want to like build a network that you don't want the home to be a spoke in a corporate network.
Okay, great.
It's a weird one.
Yeah. I think that wraps up for our questions.
All right. Well, that was a lot of questions. So
Yes.
That's great. Thanks everybody for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this informative. Maybe you didn't want to get into your question, or I didn't answer your question sufficiently. You can reach out to us. You see my email address right there, bschmerler@TP Solutions. You have our contact information there. Give us a call, reach out to us, whatever. We're happy to answer questions. These are educational sessions. We want everybody to get the right information. So please join us next month. And until next time, see you all later.
Thanks, everybody.